fucking funny.
Does that sound fine?
What's the boogeyman?
Welcome back to the Moonjuice Horror Metal Podcast, the podcast where we live and breathe heavy metal and horror, but are not afraid to shit on both of them. I'm Matt.
I'm Mike.
Lots of shit going on in horror right now, and it's tough it's tough not to talk about all of it. We're in, for whatever reason, a time right now where there's a lot of good horror coming out, and then a lot of really, really bad horror coming out. I'll leave the good stuff alone, but of course, I think we talked about it on the last podcast episode. The Alien Earth series is in full swing, right? So we're up to episode 3 now. And Mike and I cannot quit talking about this thing. Every time we meet up or every time we're just sitting down talking, this show comes up. And it's because it is an absolute fucking disaster. And it seems like we might, it feels like a lot of the time, you and me might be the only two people that think that this thing is fucking stupid as shit. And everybody else is like, oh my God, this race is so great. No. Every episode that comes out, I'm just like, wow, okay, let's destroy the story some more.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say that much because a lot I want to save up for our episode on Alien when first season is done. No? But I also told you, Matt, if you wanted to do an episode on it on this podcast, and if we wouldn't have agreed on doing an episode on this podcast, I wouldn't have watched the show. I turned on Disney Plus. And everybody was skeptical because they were like, oh, are they going to Disneyfy the Alien franchise? I saw the title of episode 1, it being Neverland. I turned it off like, no, that's not. Yeah, but then you were like, oh, we have to do an episode. It's like, oh, okay, then I'm going to watch it. No. But I already know. You also want to do an episode on season 2 and the other seasons. You can do that totally, but I'm not watching Alien Earth after season 1.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, as long as you do some research on like what the story is and how it continues to go, it should be good, because then I can just present it and be like, hey, here's what happened in this episode. What do you think of this, Mike? You know, because I continue to watch it. I'm enjoying. It's a Schadenfreude. There's really no other way to say it. It's like, I love Alien so much. So this is kind of like the train wreck of my favorite IP that I cannot look away from. Like, they're going to literally destroy the story and shit on everything everybody loves and do a half-baked story along with it that's kind of their own thing. I can't not watch it. I have to. Because it's history. It's horror history. How bad they're derailing this franchise. And I think it's going to be funny to go through it because it's hilarious. There's no way you can watch an episode as an Alien fan and not roll your eyes and laugh, because it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous, dude. But I digress. Mike and I will do an episode on the first season, and then probably season 2 and 3, or however many seasons this thing gets renewed for, because it's popular as fuck right now. So they're going to renew it and squeeze as much money out of it as they can. That's what Disney does. So
I'm getting a lot of insults now because of my opinions on Alien Earth. No? And I mean, everybody calling me stupid to I'm the ridiculous one in this discussion, and pretty much stuff like that. Yeah.
That's the internet, though, man. That's kind of why we decided to do this. Like, if you watch our podcast and you are offended by what we say, or we destroy a movie that you love, don't watch the podcast. Or go live in your own world somewhere else where people don't have opinions or like to point things out that are just insane. But we're going to do that here, and just understand that all of it's done out of love. Like, if we pick on a fucking movie or a series or whatever, understand that we're doing it because we love horror movies. We love the subject matter. We love what people do with IPs, new ideas, and then bad ideas. There's nothing wrong with pointing that out and how ridiculous they are, because everybody that is of the same opinion will laugh along with us. And if you're not one of those and you're sitting there with a frown on your face because we're ripping on your favorite series or your favorite movie, get over yourself, bro.
What was funny, what I thought was really fucking funny, was I think one guy, he wrote down, "Oh, you must really like Peter Pan. Don't you think it's a little bit ridiculous that you as an adult man are talking about that book?" And I'm like, okay, this is a guy trying to insult me and trying to point me out as stupid because I read a book. Think about that for a second.
Yeah. Especially since the original book is is twisted as fuck anyway.
We're not here to have a discussion about Peter Pan,
Yeah.
something weird and actually, or Alien, but actually this episode is supposed to be about a different movie, Matt,
Yes, I know. I just wanted to you can't. It's just like you. When something horrible is going on and you're intrigued by it, you want to talk about it. And I figure everybody who's watched this so far knows what we do, right?
Yeah.
If we love a movie or we love a series, we're going to praise it. We're going to talk great about it. We're going to point out the things about it that are really cool. But we're also going to make fun of it. And so just understand that if you are an Alien fan that is also pissed off of what's going on right now, there is an episode on the way. So just keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah.
But yes, again, I digress. This episode is about a different movie. So we have been going through our catalog of films that we wanted to do, and we're kind of that's the thing. It's horror. There's a million movies we can do, but we want to pick ones that everybody kind of are familiar with. And if you're not familiar with it, then maybe you're new to the horror genre or whatever. But this one right here put up a huge stir in the 80s. Like this came out when I was in elementary school, right? And then I didn't get to see it because my parents wouldn't let me see it. 1988. And this thing took everyone by storm. Like everybody was talking about this fucking movie. And there's a reason for it. This movie capitalized on several things going on in American culture at the time. And it was a brilliant choice to do what they did. If you were alive in 1988 or were old enough to remember, consumerism for children's toys was insane. There were lines outside of Toys R Us for whatever toy was popular at the time. There were lines outside of the mall and Toys R Us for this toy. People were paying, $100 over what the toy cost just to get one of them from someone else. And so this is a real thing that was happening. On top of the entire panic for toys, there was also the satanic panic thing going on in the United States, where the media was pushing this, I wouldn't call it an agenda, but they were pushing people to be scared of Satanists and scared of anything evil.
The satanic thing was basically also by media and by conservative politicians. It was mainly caused through Dungeons and Dragons.
And let's not forget heavy metal. Because
that too.
What got wrapped up into all that was also heavy metal. So if your kid listened to heavy metal, or they were encouraging moms to go into their kid's bedroom and look at the music that they're listening to, because a lot of it is satanic. And they're putting ideas in your child's mind, and Satan is playing with your child without you noticing it. If you go back in YouTube and look up all the stuff that was going on at the time, anything that was considered evil or demonic in any way was just completely fucking demonized by the media, right?
At least in the U.S. No.
Yeah, at least in the U.S. For our European listeners or listeners around the world, maybe it wasn't such a big thing for everybody else. But in America, everything is highly sensationalized, always has been.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to Europe, how should I say it? Heavy metal and horror movies and that kind of stuff in Europe was not really that big of a deal. Even when we have the entire satanic thing, that was specifically something that was literally going on in the States. And it even went on in the States up until the 90s, and I remember the 90s, but in the 90s, I already lived in Germany. And in here, when I grew up as a teenager in the 90s, nobody was talking about that shit. I mean, the only thing that was in media and the government is like, yeah, you shouldn't let kids under 18 watch horror movies. And other people being like, I think this is just sick that you like these kind of movies or whatever. But that's all understandable stuff, And even with heavy metal, a lot of people I know, a lot of society was just like, yeah, it's heavy metal. Let it be heavy metal. We don't care. that's how. Yeah.
I feel like what we're talking about here is kind of the difference in the way America did things and the way that the rest of the world did things, or specifically Europe, because we can always look at Europe as kind of an example of another way, and things were always done differently in Europe than they were in America. But in America, everybody hung on the newspapers. Everybody hung on the news. If the news told you it was a certain way, God damn it, you believed it, and then you panicked. And what the media did in the United States in the 80s and 90s was just panic news. That's all it was. They would make you panic about, drugs, about alcohol, about strangers, giving your kids drugs on the way to school, about Satanism, about all this stuff. And it was sensationalized to the point that they had everybody scared. And that's how they control people. And they're not really doing anything different now. Hasn't really changed. But this movie capitalized on all that. And it did it at a time where, man, everybody bit it hook, line, and sinker. Everybody was talking about this film. So what movie are we doing today, Mike?
Childsplay.
So this film had, along with it, and this is interesting in kind of an advertising point of view. They did not hide the fact with any of the advertising or any of the previews that came along with this movie that this movie was about a killer doll. So nobody went into this movie in 1988 when it came out not knowing what it was about and not knowing that the person antagonizing and terrifying everyone in the movie was a doll. That said, still people were shocked when it actually does happen, when the realization happens in the film that that's what's going on. It's very effective. Even to this day, even if you knew what was going on, when that moment happened, you're like, shit, I fucking knew it was coming, right? But brilliantly done. There is a few things about this movie that I think are ridiculous. There's a few things about this movie that I think are really funny, but one of the most interesting things about it, Mike, is that most of the budget, in fact, almost all of the budget, went into explosions. The opening scene, there's a huge explosion, and then kind of towards not the middle of the movie, but kind of as you get into like maybe the first 20 minutes of it, there's another explosion, and it happens in downtown Chicago. So the movie takes place in Chicago, and it's against the backdrop of Chicago, and so they actually spent money to blow up an apartment building in the middle of Chicago strictly for one scene. And this is not cheap stuff to do. Like, you have to have permits, you have to have people on staff that are there to clean up the mess, to make sure you don't hurt anybody, firefighters, all this stuff. A shit ton of money went into the explosions here. The rest of the budget went into the animatronics, which arguably are some of the best I've seen for a horror movie. Would you agree?
Yeah, it is pretty good.
And that's one of the things, like, we try to watch everything before we come back in and do one of these episodes, just to kind of refresh our minds. I hadn't seen this movie since probably early 2000s, I think, is when I watched it again. And with those eyes at that time, I didn't really think this thing was that impressive. But going back and watching it now, Mike and I were both like, well, I did not remember this movie being this good. Honestly, it's a pretty good fucking film.
It is, absolutely.
we should probably talk about the actors
The
and the
cast.
directors. You got all that stuff.
Exactly. That's actually what actually is a little bit, confusing about this movie. And before we get into it, though, if you like our podcast, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment in the comment section. No?
Yeah.
Good. Well, what's actually really, to a certain degree, confusing about the entire cast is Chucky. Because one of the voice of Chucky is an actor called Brad Dourif, no? And he's a great actor, by the way. He's been in multiple things. I did not even remember that he was the voice for Chucky. But this is crazy because you have like multiple other people, no? That voiced him, because there's the short cartoon with Good Guys where Chucky's being voiced. Then when it comes to the puppet, it's not always a puppet, so it was morphs. Also, Ed Gale played Chucky. Also, Eden Gross played Chucky Kid. No?
Mm-hmm.
Also, John Franklin played Chucky. No? So we have like 4 different people that play Chucky in this movie. No?
It makes sense to me. I mean, there's a lot of really cool things that happen with how you see him, and I guess if it's so seamless that if you're not really paying attention to it, you miss it, like what's actually going on and how they're doing the effect. But we'll talk about that later. Keep going with cast.
Yeah. Where you have like the little boy, Andy is played by Alex Vincent. Karen Barday is played by Catherine Hicks. And Mike Norris, also one of the police officer, is played by Chris Sarandon. No? And also, I think Dina Manoff plays Maggie, basically the mom's best friend. We also have Jack Colvin playing Dr. Admore. Pretty much everybody else in the show is, just side casts, and I can't remember any of the characters. And they're not really that. One. Neil Giuntoli, that plays Eddie Capullo, Charles Lee Ray's partner. And for anybody who don't know, Charles Lee Ray is the character, the serial killer that, through voodoo shit, transfers his body to the doll.
So the cast, other than Charles Lee Ray's character, has not done really a whole lot since, which this movie did really, really fucking well at the box office. This was the movie of, I would say, probably the winter, because it came out in November of 1988. But this movie was insanely popular at this time.
Yeah, but Brad Dourif? He's done a lot of stuff, Matt.
Yeah, no, he's done a lot of stuff, but he's the only one. He's the only one.
Oh, true, right, exactly. Yeah.
He's the only one out of this cast that's gone on to do anything big. Everybody else, this was their shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The 2 female actresses in it, they've been in a few other movies, but nothing big. And I don't think their contributions to cinema did not continue after the 80s for the most part. But yeah, actor definitely did. He's been on a bunch of shit. Anyway, so that's your cast. This movie opens up in a Chicago that is very reminiscent of what we remember being in RoboCop. So there's crime everywhere. The streets are full of terrible people. You would probably be scared to walk down certain streets in the city in broad daylight, just because of the characters that are portrayed throughout this film. It's very crime-ridden, very druggy. That Chicago of the 1980s, which is kind of something that people in Europe asked me about. Like, and I've heard it before. Like, hey man, back in the 80s in the United States, was it really as bad as they showed it in movies? Because everybody remembers the 80s just being full of crime and full of drugs, and the streets were a dangerous place. It wasn't really like that. This is just Hollywood. This is what Hollywood did to big cities. New York, LA, Chicago were very, very dangerous, drug-ridden, crime-filled places in the 80s. And what you see is Charles Lee Ray running away from a cop, and the cop is
Yeah.
chasing him down, right? The cop radios in on his radio and says, "Hey, I got the strangler. I'm following him down the street right now. I'm on the corner of this street and this street." And then you see his
Yeah.
you see his buddy who's in the cop car start the car, and the lights start going, and he's heading to where his location is.
Mhm.
Charles Lee Ray gets shot in the leg by the cop, and goes down and is kind of trying to pick himself up.
Yeah.
This cop is not the best cop. Is that a fair assumption, Mike?
You can say that. Yeah.
Not a very good cop for a few reasons. He did manage to shoot the guy in the leg, so I'll give him that. But Charles Lee Ray runs into a toy store, and this is one of those 80s toy stores where you begged your mom to take you every fucking weekend if you were a kid. Right? You go in, and it's just stacked full of toys. It's like Toys R Us from hell. There's
Yeah.
toys all over the fucking place. The walls are covered with boxes of the latest toy or whatever. He runs into this place and starts trying to hide because he's been shot in the leg. And he hides from this cop pretty well, even though this is the middle of the night. There's no sounds. It's quiet, so any movement he would have made inside of this toy store, this cop would have heard. But this cop is just kind of hanging out towards the front of the store with his gun in his hand and is not really doing a whole lot of shit, while this guy is running through this fucking toy store, knocking everything off the shelves, making a shit ton of noise, and he's just standing there. At one point, Charles Lee Ray kind of sticks his head out to see if he can see the cop, and the cop shoots and hits him in the chest, right here.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, Charles Lee Ray realizes he's dying, right? He's like, "Fuck, I'm dying. I got to do something." And then starts going through the store again, knocking everything off the shelves, making a shitload of noise. And I have no idea what the cop is doing at this point, because apparently he was just standing there for 10 minutes, not doing anything, as this guy did his business. So what Charles Lee Ray is doing is he's looking for something to put his soul in, because for reasons we'll find out later, he's learned this trick from kind of a voodoo king of this area. And so what he does is he's going around the shelves, he's looking for something. He's starting to get dizzy and lightheaded and realizes he's dying. Finds a good guy doll, which is the model that Chucky is. Gets it on the ground, puts his hand over the thing's head, and starts chanting, right? And as he's chanting, outside, out of nowhere, we get this cloud cover. Funny story about this cloud cover, Mike. This cloud cover is actually stock footage left over from Ghostbusters. I found that out.
Okay.
So you get the clouds rolling in, and this ridiculous looking lightning that for all intents and purposes, we'll call it 80s lightning. Everybody knows what I mean, because it was just kind of hand drawn in lightning that's shooting through the sky. Charles Lee Ray finishes his whole seance thing that he's doing with the doll, and then lightning strikes from this cloud cover directly into this toy store. And I think, Mike, this toy store is probably not really a toy store. I think that this thing is just a cover for a place where they keep a shit ton of explosives. Probably a bunch of terrorists who had stuffed explosives in the back because they were keeping it for something that they were going to do. And when the lightning struck, it hit the explosives, and the explosives exploded, because this explosion is not something that is going to happen if a lightning bolt strikes inside of a fucking toy store.
But Matt, but you can't take the explosion that seriously, because it's a supernatural explosion, not a natural one.
Yeah, okay. If you want to say it that way, fine. But
I mean not that way. That's literally. I mean, you have the entire seance thing happening with his voodoo mumbo jumbo shit he's doing. No, it's clearly that this storm or whatever, it's not a natural storm. So
right.
And
it's not a natural storm, but we are living in the real world where you have to have certain things happen to have an explosion like that happen. And let's say for a second that this is supernatural
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
why the explosion happened. Why would something like that seance, that the purpose of it is to get one soul to transfer to another body, how does it help if everything is exploded and destroyed, including possibly the two bodies that were part of the seance?
Okay,
And
yeah,
and
yeah.
there, you, watch the explosion. The explosion is literally, this thing would have taken on fucking blocks.
I know.
It
Yeah.
like it the entire store explodes in a huge ball of fire that engulfs the entire street. Anyone that was in that fucking building would have been dead as shit, including the cop, and
Yeah.
the doll that Charles Lee Ray is now in would have been completely destroyed. But movie magic, right? So we get, after this huge, gigantic fireball explosion, we see
Mm.
the inside of the store, and a few things are on fire. Few things are on fire. You know, stuff's thrown around the store. There's boxes everywhere, whatever. Uh, the cop kind of stumbles out of the rubble. There's not really a scratch on him. His hair is still perfect. His clothes are still perfect. He's like, that sucked. You know, they just blew up a block.
Yeah.
But okay, cool. Yeah, you're just walking around. So he comes outside, stumbles outside of the toy store into the street, and
Mm.
that's it, right? So we're led to believe that Charles Lee Ray is dead, and that the store has exploded. And the next scene we get, as that scene cuts, is a close up of Chucky's face. So the doll that he was using.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing's changed about the doll. It doesn't look odd or anything. It just looks like any other doll that's on the rack. Um, Next scene, we cut to the inside of a high-rise apartment where this little boy and his mom live. The little boy is by himself at home. How old would you say this kid is? Do they say how old this kid is in the
I
movie?
would guess around 8 or 9, but he's not alone at home. His mom is there with him. She's just sleeping in bed.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. I was thinking
Yeah.
she was at work. You're right.
Yeah, he was. She
Okay.
was.
So,
This is actually a funny scene because see, like, this little kid watching like Saturday cartoons, and
yeah.
back in the 80s, even though no much how much I love He-Man, Ninja Turtles, Thundercats, and all of that kind of stuff, these shows were literally just to promote toys. I mean, no matter how much I love them, no, that's what they were. No, and 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 this is exactly what you have here. Yeah, he's watching Saturday cartoon shows, and they have like the good guy cartoon being on, and he's like wanting to make his mom breakfast, but first he puts like cereal into a bowl and literally empties the entire fucking cereal box onto the table. Then he puts orange juice in a glass. Burnt toast. The toast burns. He puts on the table. He just takes a big spoon of I think it's butter. I don't know. Just slaps it on the burnt toast. Yeah.
On top of this burnt ass toast.
Picks up.
This kid has made a dreadful fucking mess.
Yeah, but it doesn't stop there because he takes the plate with the food on it, walks towards his mom's bedroom. Half the shit he spills also on the way there, no? And he just sees this big box and is like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get a good guy for my birthday." So it's the kid's birthday or whatever, no?
Yeah.
And this kid run towards his mom's bedroom, no? Literally spilling half of everything on the fucking floor, no?
Yeah.
It's just this. Okay, this is like what's funny about it is this is something kids would do. No,
of course.
Yeah, and it's just like, I guess the mom is good up because if you see a kid do this kind of stuff, me and my sister's done this often, and the entire apartment looked like a fucking war zone. No, and my parents also told me that too. It's just like they have to get. My dad said he wanted to get onto us. But he doesn't really want to because he knows what our intention was.
Right. I don't think any kid in America would get his ass beat for doing this, even though this is an ungodly mess that he's made. Like, it is, the whole table is full of milk and cereal. The floor is full of milk and, right?
Yeah.
How many times have you done this as a kid where it was either your birthday or there was some special occasion and you woke your mom up at an ungodly hour? Right. So she's this is a working single mom. She's tired as shit.
Yeah.
In the 80s, people didn't get paid much. The job that she's doing is kind of a
Hmm.
like in the mall, at like a jewelry stand. So she's not making that much money, and she's working her ass off, as we're gonna see later. But he wakes her up, and she's like, "Oh, it's 6 o'clock. Oh God." And he's like, "I know, but it's my birthday." And it's like she remembers that all of a sudden. She's like, "Oh yeah, okay." And she looks at the food that he brought her, the burnt toast and the butter and all the shit all over this tablet that he brings her. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll just eat this later. Is that okay?" And he sets it to the side.
Yeah.
This poor woman, dude. But at the same time, I will say she's also character-wise, she seems like a very nice person, but she's a little dense because
Yeah. Yeah.
we find out that that huge box that she has in the other room that this kid has been staring at for probably days now is the exact same size as a My Buddy doll, and it's not a My Buddy doll. In fact, it's just clothes. Please tell me why you feel like you needed to put a tiny boy's shirt and pants in this gigantic box that is shaped exactly like the exact toy he wants. You're an evil parent. You're an evil parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so they go in and she says, "Yeah, go ahead and open your gifts," because he wants to open them now, obviously. So of course he opens the box that he thinks is the good guy doll first, finding out that
Yeah.
it's only clothes, giving his mom this horribly sad face as if she didn't know that was going to happen. He's like, "I want a good guy doll," and she's like, "Well, honey, I didn't know that you wanted one that badly in time, and so I didn't have the time to save up for it. So." You'll get one, just not right this minute, right? And he's like, "Oh, okay." And you feel bad for the kid. Like, he's a cute kid. Like, throughout the entire film, this kid is cute.
Yeah.
They
He
do a
is a
good
cute
job
kid.
with the character. Like, you want to
Yeah.
protect this kid because he is really cute, you know?
Yeah.
Um, Next scene you get is mom at work, right? So she's at work behind the jewelry stand in the mall.
Yeah.
And her friend,
Maggie.
Maggie, okay.
Maggie is her name, I think.
Maggie runs up to her when
Yeah.
she's at work behind her counter and says, "Hey, you know that good guy doll that you really, really wanted to get your son? There's a guy back in the alleyway who has one. So if you hurry right now, you can probably get one for your son." There's a lot of problems with this. A lot of problems with this. One, she works by herself at a jewelry counter in the mall. And her friend is like, just leave the jewelry counter and come with me and we'll go get it. And she's like, "I don't have anybody to cover me." She's like, "Don't worry about it. You know, uh, and we'll just leave them all." This is probably like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of jewelry just like sitting there in a case with nobody watching. In this place that we've already been shown is kind of a very corrupt, crime version of Chicago. But
Yeah.
whatever. She's like, "Okay, I'll leave it." And then they go into the back of the alley behind the store where there was a very seedy looking guy who's obviously probably a homeless guy. He is a homeless guy. We find out later he's homeless. He's a homeless guy.
Yeah.
He's very dirty. He's got kind of a shopping cart full of crap that he's trying to get rid of. One of them is the buddy doll that she wants, right?
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
run up to him, and the buddy doll costs around 100, which is what her friend Maggie says. And she asked the guy how much, and he's like, 50, 50, and you can have it right now. That was a lot of money in the 80s. $50 is still a lot of money.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, I don't have 50." And her friend Maggie's like, 30, 30. And the guy keeps trying to jack the price up. And then finally they decide, okay, 30's fine. So she gives him 30. By the way, her extremely loose friend is like, "I think I dated that guy."
Yeah. Like, okay.
Guys, like how bad are your options in Chicago at this point to where you've just moved to dating homeless people? But okay, whatever. And when she gets back to work and gets behind the counter, her boss is standing there, and he's like, "Where'd you go? You don't have anybody to replace you if you walk away. We have designated working hour times for that kind of thing." The guy has absolutely no sympathy. She tries to explain to him, you know, I had to get this toy for my son. This is the only way I could get it. And if I hadn't left now, I wouldn't be able to do it. And he's like, yeah, well, okay, don't do it again. By the way, I need you to work late tonight with no warning because someone is missing or someone can't come in.
Yeah,
so he's like, I need you to work tonight. She explains to him, I can't. It's my son's birthday.
Yeah.
I have to pick him up from school in an hour as well. There's no way that's going to happen. And he's like, well, too bad. Do you like your job here? Because you may want to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, this boss is a fucking dick.
Oh, yeah. He's the fucking worst. He's like, no sympathy whatsoever. He doesn't care what she has to say. I don't care if it's your son's birthday. You're staying here, and you're going to work if you like your job. Right? So she realizes she has no choice. So her friend says, you know what? It's okay. I'm off, so I'll go take care of your son. You stay here and work. I'll go take care of your son. Good friend, right? And so that's what happens. So
that's not entirely what happens because her boss agrees to say that she can go, but she has to be back here by 7. No? So because she goes back to her apartment and gives Andy the good guy doll.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, then she has to go back to work, and then Maggie stays at home with her apartment to look after Andy. No.
Right. So yeah. She gives him the toy first. He's super happy about it. She pulls it out of the case and gives it to him, and immediately the doll starts talking. Like, not abnormally, but talking the way that one of these dolls would talk. He says, "Hi, my name is Chucky. Do you want to play?"
Yeah.
Which is what this doll says normally anyway. And then I think she explains to him that she has to go back to work. What?
With one exception. With the good guys' dolls do not say Chucky.
Oh, that's right. They have another name, right?
Exactly. It says, I'm not sure what they say, but it's shown in the commercial. I think that Andy is written. But this is like the first hint, that something's wrong with this doll. No.
Yeah. So the doll says its name is Chucky, which that doesn't set anybody off. Nobody notices. He says, "Hi, I'm Chucky. I'm your friend to the end."
Yeah.
Heidi ho. So then it cuts to her friend who's taking care of Andy for the night. And he's sitting there playing with Chucky, talking to Chucky, acting like he's building things. So there's like this Child's Play set of tools, right? But they're metal tools. There's like a tiny hammer and a tiny screwdriver and all this stuff. And he's acting like he's teaching Chucky how to build things. Chucky's head keeps turning towards the TV when he's not looking because Chucky is actually watching the TV. And what's going on right now is there's a news report about the explosion that happened at the toy store.
Yeah.
And that the Strangler has been killed, right? And so that's why Chucky's looking at the TV. One thing we didn't explain that we probably should have is that some character, the Strangler, had someone who was supposed to wait for him in a car outside.
Oh,
so
yes,
he could hop in the car and get away.
Yeah.
Right. But that driver, right, he didn't wait on him. He just took off because he saw the cops coming. So Charles feels like that's the reason he died, is that his getaway driver did not wait for him. And so the news that he's seeing says that they're on the lookout for Charles Caputo, which is the guy's name that was his getaway driver. So the Strangler's dead, but his accomplice in crime is still at large. So please be aware that he is at large and dangerous, right? Chucky sees that. Andy's like, "Hey, why were you not paying attention to me? I'm teaching you how to work." And Chucky turns his head from the TV and looks back at Andy and is like, says his name again. He's like, "Hi, I'm Chucky. Want to play?" Same thing the doll would have normally done. But you realize at this point that the doll actually has its own consciousness. So Andy puts the good guy doll kind of sitting somewhere in the room, but not necessarily sitting in front of the TV. And then goes to his room. And then Maggie walks into the den, and the doll is sitting in front of the TV in the chair watching the news.
No, not really. You're mixing something up. No, because the thing is, Maggie then first says to Andy, "Okay, it's time to go to bed." No, Then Andy says to his babysitter Maggie, "Yeah, but Chucky says he wants to watch the 9 o'clock news." No,
Okay.
first she finds that funny. No,
Yeah.
and then she takes Andy by the hand and grabs Chucky. No, and then puts them into the bedroom and basically tucks them in to go to bed. Then Maggie walks back into the kitchen, doing something, don't remember what, and then all of a sudden, Chucky is sitting on the chair and the TV was turned on.
Ah, that's what it was. Okay.
Exactly.
I missed that.
No?
I thought all of a sudden.
Then
he was
again,
sitting in front
Maggie
the
is kind of a
TV
little
with
bit
her
of no,
information, which that would have been a dead giveaway.
no, because no, I think at this time she didn't tug Andy in yet. No, she just told him to get ready for bed. No, and put him towards his bedroom. At this point, Andy was brushing his teeth. No, and Maggie was like, "Oh yeah, are you brushing your teeth, getting ready for bed?" He says, "Yeah, I'm getting ready for bed." Then the TV turns on and Chucky's sitting in front of it. Maggie gets aggravated,
okay. That's what it was.
turns off the TV, grabs Chucky, I think, on the arm or the leg, then goes back to Andy. "What were you doing? Why are you trying to fuck with me or whatever?" Andy has no clue what's going on because he didn't do anything. Maggie just brings Andy to bed with Chucky, and then goes back in.
So then what we get is Maggie kind of sitting on the couch reading a book because Andy's in the other room asleep. I think there's a few sounds that happen that alert her to something's going on. First thing we see is the doorknob to Andy's room slowly turning. So somebody's trying to get out of the room. So the doorknob turns, and we get kind of a POV of the doll walking from the bedroom through the house, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of get like a background blur of the doll running by behind her as she's reading the book. And this is obviously a child that they got to play this part. It's just somebody running in the background. Which is kind of what I thought they did the entire film, but apparently they didn't. They used little people and they used animatronics. And there's a few scenes in the film that look really fucking good. But there's a few reasons for that. We'll get to it later. She notices there's commotion in the kitchen. We see something pulling one of the chairs. It's kind of like a bar stool, right? Pulling the bar stool away from the kitchen table and pulling it somewhere else. And we don't really see where. She hears the chair slide, gets up from reading her book, and goes and looks in the kitchen to see what's going on. She doesn't really see that anything's out of place or anything like that, but she starts looking around and getting a little weirded out. So she starts moving pieces of furniture out of the way to look behind it because she thinks Andy's in the room fucking with her. She thinks Andy's just hiding from her, which is something kids do, right? And she's slowly moving pieces of furniture out of the way, and you kind of get the feeling like Chucky's going to jump out any minute, but he doesn't. So she finds one spot that she definitely thinks he's at because this thing is in a place where it wasn't before. She pulls it out of the way, nothing's there. And she goes, and then turns around. And this is where I think the editing mistake comes in that I was talking about. The minute she turns around, she gets hit in the eye with the hammer that he was using to show Chucky how to build stuff earlier. But this hit that she gets is like directly to the face at her height, right in the eye. How the fuck did Chucky do that?
He was standing on a stool or whatever. He jumped. I don't know.
We don't see this doll jump, and this is a direct hit
in the
right
face.
to the eye. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. So she gets hit in the eye, stumbles backward, and out the window. Right.
Yeah.
So she falls to her death from. I want to say this is the second to the last floor in this huge apartment building, all the way down to the bottom, in slow motion. It's like a slow motion fall, and then directly onto a truck. This is pretty well done. Like, there's nothing here that looks out of place or weird. Like, there's no weird ragdoll effect of the body or anything like that. It just honestly is really well done. Then I have to wonder if they didn't actually film her jumping from the top of this apartment building in some way onto like a cushion on the ground because it looks like a real fall. Like, it's really well done. So she lands on a truck underneath. The truck basically explodes because not in a big fireball or anything, but, you know, it kind of explodes because you just had all that weight landing on top of it. mom has come home from work and she takes the bus home, and she notices that there's a bunch of police and ambulance workers out in front of her apartment building. Immediately, of course, just like any other mom, she's thinking that maybe something happened to her child. So
Yeah,
she
of
runs
course.
up. She runs up. This probably been maybe a good hour to 2 hours since this incident happened before she got home, because the cops are
Mhm.
already in the house, and they've been going through the house
Yeah.
to figure out what happened. She goes up to the top floor. This is where you kind of get your first look at how everybody gets to this apartment building, which, by the way, this apartment building is pretty cool. This is like kind of nostalgic old Chicago style wrought iron
Mhm.
elevator lift that they used to
Yeah.
have for people, which they don't do anymore. Um, and it goes up to the top floor with her in it. She walks into her house. There's police everywhere. Um, some of them are pretty bored and sitting on the couch and reading a newspaper, whatever. And then there's a detective there who's
Yeah.
going through the house and looking at everything that happened and trying to piece things together. First thing she does is run past all these people and run and finds her kid, picks him up, gives him a big hug, and says, "Hey, uh, what's wrong? Where's Maggie?" He says, "Maggie had an accident." And she
Yeah.
says, "What kind of accident? What kind of accident?" Um, so then the detective walks up and says, "Hi, I'm Detective whatever. I'm going to call him Bargain Matthew Perry because he looks just like Matthew Perry, and we never see him again in any other film."
Yeah.
Uh, he walks up and says,
Mhm.
"Hey, can I talk to you off to the side? We need to have a conversation." She says, "Sure." She steps off to the side with him. And he explains that she fell from the window all the way down to the bottom and died.
Yeah.
He steps off to the side with her and starts talking about what he thinks happened. Takes her into the kitchen and says, "Hey, look, she fell out of the window, but there is something that I want to show you." Um, and he
Mhm.
points to the counter, the kitchen counter, and on the kitchen counter is flour everywhere. And in the flour, there's these little footprints from kind of like kids' feet, right? But
Yeah.
these to me, and I think to any cop, Mike, would be way too small of
Yeah.
a footprint for this kid, because he's automatically thinking it's probably Andy. But he says, "Hey, I looked at these footprints and I already went through all the shoes in Andy's closet. None of the shoes that he has matches this footprint,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
obviously wasn't Andy, right?" Um, Kip's
Mhm.
not very good at his job, because later he figures out that the actual shoes that Andy is wearing are the exact same shoes with the exact same pattern that's in the flower. So they just forgot to check the kid's feet, but whatever. Um, so Andy runs up there and he's like, "Hey, mom, what's going on?" She's like, "Just go back to bed, take Chucky and go back to bed. We'll talk about this in the morning."
Yeah.
Kid goes back to bed. She asks him, "Hey, do you know whose footprints those are on the counter?" He says, "No." She goes to the cop and says, "Hey, he says he doesn't know whose footprints those are. He didn't think anybody else was in the apartment. I don't know." Cop says, "Okay, I'll call you tomorrow and we'll talk about this stuff a little bit more because we have to get to the bottom of it."
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the kid goes back to bed and puts Chucky uh, in a chair that's next to his bed, and gets in bed. But then he notices the bottom of Chucky's feet, right? And on the bottom of the doll's feet
Yeah.
is powder from the flour, and it's also in the same design
Mhm.
that's on the kitchen counter. Kid notices this, finds it a little bit weird, but I mean he is only 6 years old. A little bit weird. Goes back to bed, uh, and she puts all the cops outside, and he says, "Hey, you gonna give me a call?" Like, I feel like this guy's a little bit flirting with her, right? Did you get that? Kind
Yeah.
of seems like he's flirting with her.
A
He's
little
like, "So
bit.
you're
Yeah.
gonna give me a call?" Yeah. Are you gonna give me a call? She says, "Yeah, I'll call you tomorrow or whatever." He goes outside
Mhm.
with the other detective that's his partner. I love how he's smoking indoors here in this apartment building. You can really tell it's the '80s because of that. And he says, "Yeah, I want an autopsy report on my desk tomorrow morning of the deceased. And by the way, I want you to run prints on this hammer." He hands him the hammer that's in a bag that she was hit in the face with. Said, run prints on this and let me know in the morning."
No, I think this what you're talking about. I think is happening later. No. I think it's when the cops are gone, what you're talking about, because first, shortly when the cops are about to leave, Andy comes out and says, Mom, I think Chucky did it, because he notices the flower on Chucky's shoes, no?
Right.
And then the cop, because the cop, you know, with the cop, that he suspects that the kid did it, but he can also see that the cop at the same time feels really bad because he sees the kid as a suspect. That's what makes the character himself interesting, because he's clearly suspecting Andy, and he himself feels bad for it.
Yeah.
You can see that in the guy's face.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. However, the cops leave,
Like,
and what
it
you're talking
feels like
about now
it's
is a scene
ridiculous.
where the mom is hearing, she's in a room, I think, or whatever, and hears voices. Then she walks up to Andy's bedroom, and opens up the door, and Chucky is sitting in a chair, and Andy is talking to him. At this point, the mom puts Andy on the bed, and said, "Who are you talking to?" And he says, "Yeah, well, I'm talking to Chucky." And the mom tries to get into a discussion with Andy because she thinks that something's wrong with him or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Andy says, to the mom, "Yeah, well, Chucky said that Maggie was a stupid bitch and that she got what she deserved."
That's not something a child would say.
The thing is, she gets up, she takes the doll, and she says, "Well, how can you say that at Maggie?" And then Andy says, "Yeah, but Chucky said that." Now, then she brings up the doll and says, "Andy, Chucky is just a doll. He's not alive. He's just made out of plastic." So the mom at this point is assuming that she doesn't know where it comes from or how it comes up with this shit. And you can see that she's totally fucking confused. But she also is not going to suspect that the fucking doll told her boy that. No? I mean, maximum that somebody fucked up with the programming of the doll. I mean, that would have been my thought. No? That somehow there was a false recording in the fucking doll, and it put it that would have been my thought. That would have been something like, yeah, okay, maybe. No?
At the same time, we both have to admit there's things going on that should have probably been looked into by her that weren't. And the other thing is, she lets him go to school the next day as if nothing happened.
With the doll.
Like, it's not, with the doll. It's not that the kid witnessed the murder or anything, but he's well aware of what happened. And this would have been traumatic for a kid. But she sends him off to school. And this part really bothers me because it's not like in the 80s, it was a normal thing to see a fucking 6-year-old kid with his doll riding public transport with a bunch of adults. Like, that's odd.
Yeah.
She takes him to school with the doll, drops him off. The minute she leaves, he steps right back out of school with the doll, goes to the train station or the public transit, and gets on a fucking train that's heading to downtown, right? And none of the adults that see this kid on the train with his kid think this is odd or out of place.
They act like it's normal, yeah.
If this had really happened, there would have been multiple adults coming up to this kid asking him where his mom was, but nobody does. And even more so when he gets off at the stop that he gets off at, because he gets off the train with the doll in a really shitty part of town. And nobody thinks this is odd or off, but he gets out of the train with the doll and basically starts walking down Skid Row, which Skid Row in any big city is where all the homeless people live. It's where all the crime goes down, all the drugs, all that stuff. And we see him walking down the stairs from the train station into this crowd of people who are obviously on drugs, obviously up to no good, and a lot of homeless people, and nobody stops this kid or says a fucking word to him. Like, hang on, every fucking adult in that scene. Somebody should have done something. Anyway, he starts walking down Skid Row with the doll. The doll, the way he's holding it, has got its face up to his head. So we know that the doll is telling him where to go this entire time. So he rounds a corner and says, "Okay, Chucky, sit here in this chair. There's like a broken down piece of shit chair amongst all this trash." He says, "Here, have a seat in this chair. I got to go pee." So he puts Chucky down in the chair, walks off to go take a leak. And the next thing we see is the chair that he put Chucky in, and Chucky is no longer in the chair, right? Chucky is gone. And he's sitting right in front of this kind of dilapidated house/apartment building that's in this really shitty area. And we get a POV of the doll running into this apartment building, which this is where Caputo is staying. And he already knew that, right? Most of what we get
that's
here,
why
this
he's
is
there.
kind of where the that's why he's there. We start to get a little bit of the animatronic work here, but not like completely. You see Chucky's hand doing a lot of things, but it's really well done. I like the animatronics for this era. It's pretty fucking good. So Chucky goes into the building, starts looking around the house. Obviously, Caputo is he's kind of hanging out away from the cops in a place that he knows he's not going to be found.
Yeah.
There's rats everywhere. This building is destroyed and disgusting. Caputo is just laying upstairs in his bed, like with his gun, waiting for the cops to show up or waiting for somebody to realize he's there. Chucky goes down to the oven, opens the oven, turns it on, blows out the pilot light so that the gas is leaking out into the house, and then cranks the gas up all the way because he knows if Caputo sees him, he's probably going to shoot him, and when he does try to shoot him, it's going to cause a chain reaction and blow up the house, right? So we see him turning on the gas and turning it all the way up. Andy walks out, realizes Chucky's gone, and starts looking for him. Next scene is back in the house. Caputo has realized that something's going on in the house because he hears sounds like somebody opening a door, somebody messing around with stuff downstairs. He gets his gun and starts slowly going down the stairs and then starts immediately shooting at things, which I thought was a little odd, but he like thinks he sees movements, which could obviously be a rat or something, and he decides to shoot. By the way, this is a hand cannon.
Yeah.
This is a revolver. They're known for being very loud. So if you're trying to hide out from the cops, you may not have wanted to shoot like 2 or 3 shots into a wall because everybody out on the street just heard that shit. Andy also hears the shots go off. He hears the gun, realizes it's coming from the house, and runs for the house to where Caputo is. Caputo looks out the window and sees Andy kind of walking towards the house, and he's freaked out, but then he realizes it's a kid, and he's like, okay, what's going on here? Here's another sound in the back of the house, which is in the kitchen, which is where the oven is open and the gas is on. Opens the door and shoots. I don't think Chucky was in there, so I don't know what he was shooting at, right?
No, he was making noise.
But
I guess you could see it because at this point, I think Chucky was already safe. He was making noises to lure him down into the kitchen. Chucky was fucking with him. Now, because he wanted him to go into the kitchen and shoot what happened.
Right.
Huh? But this is just
so
like, I mean, I'm not sure this is
when
like...
did he shoot it?
Yeah, that's the big question. He just opens up and shoots, nah? And the thing is, I know this building is in a bad condition, nah? But would the explosion be that strong that it would literally tear the fucking building apart?
No. That's my
because
next point.
This is out of control. I mean, yeah, because this is, if this was a wood house, okay, but this is clearly made out of stone. You can see that, no? And I think bricks. And I just, this is the point where I'm like, okay. When I saw the explosion, my first thought was also like, I don't think the explosion from a gas, and it's not a leak, it's just leaving the oven on. No? I don't think that the explosion would be that big that it would literally tear the fucking house apart.
No. But this is where I go back to. I think most of the money for this film was spent in animatronics and then explosions, because this explosion is huge. Just like the Toy Story explosion, this thing tears that house apart. And for an explosion to have done what this explosion does to this house, it would have needed to be like C4 or some type of big explosion, because it blows the bricks out, the entire house explodes and dilapidates on itself, all because someone left an oven on. Impressive explosion. Like, there's no way they would have been able to do this any other way. Like, it is an actual building exploding. Scene. Obviously, Caputo is now dead, which is what Chucky was trying to do. He's trying to kill his accomplice for leaving him stranded when he got killed.
Yeah, this is the thing is because you know that because shortly before Charles Lee Ray dies,
Say what?
there's also something we forget that there's a scene we forgot, something we forgot from the beginning of the movie, and of course, you know that this was Chucky's partner, but before Charles died, he screamed at the cop, "My partner, I'm going to make sure that you fucking do guys die if that's the last thing I do."
Yeah, that's right.
So this also gives you away who definitely Chucky's targets are going to.
The cop calls his mom to come down to the station because obviously they picked up Andy near the house as well, along with the doll.
Yeah.
He says, I don't know how to tell you this, Miss Barclay, which her name is Miss Barclay, but do you have any idea why your Aunt Maggie fell out of that window? He brings up what happened the night before. And says, because she saw Chucky and it scared her so much she fell out, is what Andy told her, or Andy told the cops. Andy says she saw Chucky and it scared her so much she fell out of the window. Which, I mean, okay. I don't really see how that's relevant to tell the mom. That's something that would have probably been kept internal for the investigation, but whatever.
But you have to do a certain degree because this is not necessarily only a part of the internal investigation. It's something different because it's the kid, what she knows. And she's asked, and the thing is, the question is also a test question to see what the mother knows. And Andy probably got this because it was Chucky that told him that. That's what, I assume. Because at this point, the cop is pretty much, I'm not sure if he says it, but he's pretty much also towards the mom, like, here, I mean, there is no other suspect than Andy. At this point, they just assume that Andy did it. Even though, and this is just kind of what makes the cop kind of sympathetic because you can see him struggling with himself because he really feels fucking bad for having this kid as a suspect.
He has to tell her, hey, look, this is the only thing we got. This is what your kid keeps saying. And quite honestly, I think they're going to try to take him away for observation if he continues this line of answers when we ask him a question. So she's then allowed to go to Andy and ask him, hey, look, I know you keep saying that it's Chucky, but nobody believes it's Chucky. Nobody believes that. So please tell me what's going on. And this is where the kid starts to get upset. He's like, I am telling you the truth. I'm not lying. That's exactly what happened. That's what Chucky told me. And so she tells it. Yeah, she does. She tells him, she's like, if you continue to say that, they're going to take you away from me for psychological testing. Right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't faze the kid at all. He's like, you don't get it. I'm telling you the truth. Chucky told me this.
Because the kid knows he's telling the truth. No? Yeah. And then Andy goes to Chucky and tries to get him to talk. No? But Chucky just doesn't do anything. He just sits there. No?
Yeah. I love it. Because he knows too, because Chucky has told him not to say anything. And this kid is just saying whatever he can to try to save himself.
Also, Andy also says, Chucky told me if I say anything, he'll kill me.
Right. Which, this would have raised a red flag for anyone to probably get this kid in for psychological testing, because this shit is not fucking normal at all.
Yeah, because then you have all this thing going on, then you have these kind of typical mirrors police officers use where you can see through from one side but not from the other. Yeah. And you hear a speaker coming through, and this one doctor saying, okay, I've seen enough. You definitely have to take him with for testing, obviously. No. This is a situation, you know what's going on, but you can't really hold it up against anybody because, I mean, he was the only one there when Maggie shot out of the window, and he's saying, and he said he was going to kill me, and blah, this. I mean, everybody would have taken this kid in for testing. No? Yeah. I mean...
Yeah, if it was my kid, I would have wanted him to anyway, because this shit is not normal behavior. This is an overactive imagination.
That's what everybody would have thought.
Trauma is a weird thing too. Like with kids, it could be that he did see the entire thing. But kids' brains are strange. Kids' brains will make things up so that they don't actually have to deal with the truth.
Yeah.
And that's what these doctors think is going
Yeah.
on. And they think they can get to the bottom of what actually happened if they take him, which makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
The mom is not happy about this, but she goes along with it, I think, as any parent would, because this situation's insane.
Yeah.
She takes Chucky home with her, and there's kind of this, like, she wants to believe her kid. She wants to believe that he's not crazy. She wants to believe that maybe there's some part of her that believes maybe it is Chucky. And this is where we get a really cool scene. I love this scene, right? Because you see this internal struggle with her to where she's like, I feel so stupid doing this, but I have to do it to clear my mind. So she sits Chucky down in a chair and she says, tell me what happened. Say something, anything. The doll says the same thing he always says. He's like, hi, I'm blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I really like hugs. Can I have a hug? And when he says that, she's just like, I'm so stupid.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. Right. And so now at this point, she's kind of dismissed the idea that it could have possibly been Chucky, and she's realized that something's happened with her son.
Yeah, until she picks up the box, and is looking at it, gets something, wanting to throw it away, and then the batteries fall out of the box.
Yeah.
She looks at the box, and she says, batteries included. And then she realizes there aren't any fucking batteries in the doll. Then
funny story though, Mike. Do you remember Teddy Ruxpin? Were you of the age where you can remember Teddy Ruxpin?
Isn't that the Unabomber killer? No.
Oh my god, I can't believe you said that. No, Teddy Ruxpin is the bear. There was a bear that was kind of like Chucky. He was a little bear in the 80s. I want to say it was like late 80s, right? That was battery operated in the back. And if you had the batteries in and a cassette tape in, he would sit there and tell you the story. This was all the craze at the time, right? But that little bastard, I shit you not. I actually, huh?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I remember that. Matt. Yeah.
So Teddy Ruxpin was a really famous toy in the United States in the 80s, and people that are watching this are going to remember this for sure. But you would have a cassette tape in his back, and he would tell you the story of whatever was on the tape. His face would move, his eyes would move. He would tell you the story.
Mm-hmm.
If you took the batteries out of that fucker and set it somewhere, it would still move every once in a while. It would still move, and sometimes it would say things. And it did it one time when me and my also were there, and it freaked us the fuck out because we knew there were no batteries in it, and we knew there was no tape in it. And we told our parents, and they didn't believe us. They're like, you have an overactive imagination. And then we'd set the bear some other time. I think we were at the beach house. We set him in the corner, and my mom hadn't put the batteries in him yet, and he did it in front of my mom. My mom was like, sure enough, there's an internal battery in there that would also kind of charge itself, and it would also continue talking, or it would have like spasms every once in a while where it would talk.
Mm-hmm.
So this reminded me of that specifically. But if you had a Teddy Ruxpin back in the 80s, maybe you had this happen to you as well. But pretty fucking up thing that happened. Anyway, so like you said, the batteries fall out of the box onto the floor. She picks up the batteries and looks at them, and they're brand new in the package. They haven't even been taken out, and it says on the box, batteries included. So she knows the batteries are not in there, like you said. That's when she goes, what the fuck? And heads straight back to the doll. And she goes over and picks him up and shakes him and tries to get him to say something, and he won't do it. So then she goes over to the fireplace.
No, Matt, because she first goes back and checks him and opens up the back and see.
Huh?
No, not yet. First she turns him around and checks to see if there's batteries in him, and she realizes he doesn't have any batteries in him. Then he turns around and says something to her, and she scares and drops him. No, she gets him back underneath the couch, and then she does exactly what you're saying now.
Yeah. The thing under the couch too, I thought that maybe we were going to get a different scene here because when he falls on the ground and then goes under the couch, you're like, oh shit. Like now we're going to get a jump scare out from underneath the couch. But she doesn't. She goes down to the bottom of the couch, lifts up the rug, sees that he's just laying down there and picks him up. Takes him over to the fireplace, turns on the fireplace, holds him up, and says, "If you don't say something right now, I'm going to throw you in the fire." And that's where Chucky fucking changes. And this is
Yeah,
great
yeah,
because animatronics department did a version of Chucky that had a very normal face, like the actual
yeah,
doll, that they could also change into this really bad grimace all of a
yeah.
sudden in front of the screen. And this was the only time that doll was used, but it's used to great effect here. Weren't expecting it to happen. Uh, and she starts wrestling with the doll, like wrestling with the doll a lot. Like this thing is trying to kill her, and it's screaming the whole time, and it's got her on the floor. And it's just a really good scene. Like it's really well done. Um, you didn't, at least I didn't think for a minute that this looked out of place or looked weird. And this is one of those scenes that if
But
you didn't do it right, this could have come off as very silly,
yeah,
but it
yeah.
was
But it
highly
doesn't. It
effective.
doesn't. Yeah,
And you
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it comes off very effective. The whole time they're concentrated on his face too, and you see how evil this fucking doll's face looks through this entire fight.
Yeah.
She throws him across the room because he'd already had her on the floor. She throws him across the room, and he gets up and then runs away. So now he's somewhere in the house. She doesn't know where he is, but this is not before he bites her in the
Yeah,
arm.
yeah.
And so now she's got this big bite mark from Chucky on the right hand side of her arm, on her right arm. She throws him across the room. He runs away somewhere else in the house,
Mm.
and she takes off after him because he's run outside and is now getting on the elevator. This little fucking doll. He gets on the elevator, pushes a button, and it's going down. She runs out after him and chases the elevator all the way down the shaft to try to get him before he goes out in the street.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get there in time. He gets out of the elevator and runs out of the apartment building before she's able to get down there. And now she realizes, fuck, my son was right. This thing is alive, and he's nowhere to be seen. So now she knows that this thing is kind of out on its own and dangerous. Uh, Not
Yeah.
sure what
Mm.
I would have done at this point, but she probably did the best thing that came to mind, which was hop in a taxi and go
Yeah.
directly to the police department, right? And this is where
Mm.
she comes off as a batshit crazy chick, right? She gets to the police department, and the fucking detective is walking out from working all day at this time. Like he's done. This guy
Yeah.
has been working his ass off on this case, and is obviously tired as fuck. And she's like, "Hey," panicked. She's like, "Hey, my son was right. Chucky is alive. The doll is alive." He looks at her like she's fucking insane. He's like, "Yeah, okay. You know what? I've had a really fucking long day, and I'm going home." She's like, "No, you have to believe me. You don't understand. He's not lying. You need to get him out of that hospital right now and get him home to me because he's in danger." Right? Of course, he's like, "You're insane." And I would
Yeah.
have been thinking the same thing as this cop. I would have been like, "Look, lady, I know you miss your kid, and I know it bothers you that he's in this hospital right now, but this kind of has to happen. So quit making up stupid fucking stories to get your kid back." And that's when she shows him her arm. She says, "Look, the fucker bit me."
Yeah.
And the bite is already starting to look a little bit infected. And it looks like human teeth, too. This doesn't look like, a doll bit her.
Yeah.
He thinks she's completely
Mm-hmm.
fucking Looney Tunes. He's like, "I'm going home." And he gets in his car, right?
She just walks in, Captain. If you're not going to help me, I'm going to go do it myself. I'm going to go find Chucky. And she gets in a
Yep.
cab, and then the cop, tries to talk her out of it,
Mike,
because
you're
he says,
completely
like, where you're
frozen.
going to go, you shouldn't go there at night. And then, and now she goes off. There's a scene where she's looking for the guy she bought the doll from, because that's like the only lead she
Right.
has to where Chucky could be or whatever. Finds the homeless guy. However, no, the cop shows up because he followed the mother, not because he was worried about her. It didn't go out of his head because she's going to a super dangerous place, and he did not want anything to happen. So then he pulls the homeless guy away, pulls out his gun, and says, "Hey, who wants to fuck with us?" No, of course everybody leaves. No, however, then this is where the cop takes the mother back into his car. And then they drive back, back into the city. Then the scene happens that you were describing. Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she doesn't get the information she wanted. He followed her out there, picked her up, brought her back to her apartment building, I'm guessing. And this is where she says what I said before. She said, "Hey, I'm a loose end.
Exactly.
You don't like loose ends, so I know you're going to look up and try to figure out, what we were talking about." Let's see. I have to skip forward to that part real quick.
Because the cop journey with first wanted to drive home, no? But I guess everything what happened, it didn't go out of his head, no? So he drove back to the police station first to get Charles D. Ray's file, no?
Right.
And then gets back in his car. And then starts to drive home. And this is on his drive home, Chucky starts to attack him. He gets up from the back seat and wants to strangle him. No, this scene, I have to be honest, it was one that I found.
Another good scene.
It is a good scene, but it's also pretty fucking ridiculous because straight up to the beginning, you would be like, step on the brakes.
Cool. This car chase is, in my opinion, one of the stupidest things in the film. It's also one of the best scenes, right? For multiple reasons. Well, okay, so this thing, the cop is being attacked by a doll. He picks up the fucking the file from Charles Lee Ray from his office, gets back in his car, and starts driving. Lights a cigarette. All of a sudden, you see these wires come from behind the seat and wrap around his neck, and these are like charging cable wires. Right behind him, we see Chucky holding onto the wires and leaning back so that he's choking him. But the cop is actually able to get his hand underneath the wires so that they're not completely on his neck. The only thing that makes no sense in this is, one, this is a doll that weighs 15 pounds. So I cannot imagine that the pull strength of that doll is enough to choke a fully grown man. And then secondly, why the fuck did he immediately step on the accelerator? Doesn't make sense. Like, any normal human's reaction would have been to stomp on the brake, get the cables out from around your neck, and then jump out of the car so you could shoot the doll that was in the car. But instead, this guy stomps on the accelerator, leading them on a very high-speed drag race through the center of downtown Chicago, under tunnels, on sidewalks, through mailboxes, all sorts of shit, dude. Like, there's nothing but waste left behind these guys as far as just pummeling through town. The one thing he does do that made a little bit of sense, although I think stepping on the brake would have made a little bit more sense, he already had the cigarette lighter pushed in to where it would get hot, and he remembered that, grabs it, and reaches behind and sticks it in Chucky's face, like right here. But he sticks a cigarette lighter in Chucky's face. That makes Chucky release the wires that are around the cop's neck. Why the cop, again, at this point, when he's free, did not stomp on the brake, I'll never understand, because he just keeps driving, right? The guy's probably going a good, I don't know, being generous, maybe 45 miles an hour through the center of downtown Chicago at night. Continues to accelerate, and then Chucky has a butcher knife with him, apparently, and stabs it through the back of the seat. It misses the cop. The cop realizes he's doing it and kind of moves up from the seat. Chucky realizes he's moved up, so then Chucky goes underneath the seat and starts stabbing the knife through the bottom of the seat so it comes up between the cop's legs. Like, barely misses his jump 2 or 3 times. The cop has both feet away from the accelerator because he's trying to stay up out of the seat so he doesn't get stabbed, right? At this time, Chucky decides he's going to reach over underneath the seat and put his hand on the accelerator to make sure that the car keeps going as fast as it possibly can. And And as he's doing this, the cop tries to hit the brake again, but I don't know if you noticed, but the fucking brake pedal pops off. So the foot padding on the brake pedal pops off. So all you've got is the stem, right? So he's trying to hit the brake now with his right foot, but there's no fucking pedal there for him to get any grip on. So he keeps missing it. Finally, he hits the brake, and the car does a flip right in the middle of the street. And this is right after it nails a mailbox and sends the mailbox flying like, down the street. But the car flips and slides, and this is also a practical effect. So the car actually flipping in the middle of the street and sliding down the middle of the street was actually done in Chicago, which is pretty cool. It wasn't a stage. When the car ends up on its back, the cop is also laying on his back on top of the ceiling of the inside of the car, has his gun drawn, and is watching Chucky run around outside of the car in circles around the car. So he's having to like look in both directions while turned over in this car to see if he can get a shot at Chucky. He gets a couple of shots off, but doesn't hit him. And then Chucky runs up to the right-hand driver's side of the car where the cop's head is. And this is a shot that I kind of can't understand as well, because he had a very clear shot at the cop's head with this knife because the cop was not moving. And somehow he stuck it in the door right next to the cop's head, completely missing him, which makes no sense. The knife is stuck in there and is kind of stuck there and not moving. So Chucky leaves the knife and then decides to do a couple more laps around the car for whatever reason. We don't know. Whatever. Doing a couple laps around the car. The cop shoots at him again, misses. And then he thinks that Chucky's gone or has given up or has gone somewhere else because he doesn't hear anything. And that's when you see a hand reach out from behind him to grab the butcher knife back out of the door where it was stuck. Yeah. And so he does that. The cop sees it and he spins around to the front of the front window, and the front window is already busted open. So Chucky comes running through it with his knife ready to stab the cop, and the cop shoots him in the chest. When he shoots him in the chest, of course, this doll only weighs 15 pounds. So he goes flying like 200 meters in the air in another direction, screaming in pain because it hurts him, right? So we know now Chucky can be hurt. And this is where Chucky backs off and goes somewhere else, right? And leaves the cop there in his car. I love that scene. I watched it twice. It was cool. Not bad cinematography here for what seems to be a pretty cheesy 80s film. Pretty good. Like they kept that scene interesting. And I was happy about that because it's probably the most exciting scene in the film. Next scene we get, Andy's mom has kind of already gone on her own crusade to figure out what's going on because she doesn't think the cop is going to help her. And he's basically said as much. He doesn't believe her story. He doesn't believe that Chucky's real. Yeah. Now, obviously, he does, but she doesn't know that. So she's gone to Charles Lee Ray's residence where he used to live. She walks into the house. I don't know how she gets into the house. Does she have a key? I don't know. But she gets in the house.
No, you see her walking up the door and talking to some guy, giving her something. So obviously she bribed a guy to let her up there.
Okay. So she's in the apartment, and the only way I can describe this apartment is kind of, I don't know, it's like an insane artist lives there. There's drawings all over the wall. They're mostly, I wouldn't say pornographic, but it's a lot of drawings of himself naked.
I mean, right? It's also it's really very short before porn. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. It is kind of pornographic. Yeah,
you're right.
And it does look a little. It's not like anything grotesque or so, but you see it instantly, and it's weird. It's
odd. It's a guy that worships himself basically, and then also worships the guy who supposedly taught him how to cheat death, because you've got like a big saying on the wall right there that says something like hail to the guy, or hail to the man, and it says his name, who taught me how to cheat death, right? And then next to that is a portrait of him also naked, snuggled up to this very tall, voodoo looking man who's got like the typical New Orleans style top hat that they're known for down there, voodoo wise, and he's very painted up. And there's obviously some voodoo stuff going on here, which surprisingly enough, everybody in America equated voodoo with Satanism back in the 80s, which the two have absolutely nothing to do with each other. But whatever.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah. And so you get the idea that this guy, learned how to cheat death from someone else just from these pictures. At that moment that she's already looked up the apartment, there's this ominous figure walking up behind her in the dark. And we obviously know this is the cop. I mean, I don't even know why they shot this scene this way. Like, obviously it's the cop. But he walks up behind her and he says, "Hey, I believe you. I was just attacked by the doll. Almost got killed. And by the way, I started going through his files. And what I've found is that there's a guy that he communicated with all the time who still lives in this area who is known as kind of a guru for voodoo.
Yeah.
And so,
But also,
go
one
ahead.
thing he mentions also, from the files, is that Charles' nickname was Chucky.
Yeah, that's the other thing. So
Yeah.
now the entire thing fits together. So they know why the doll is calling itself Chucky too, because that was his nickname.
Yeah.
So they decide very haphazardly. At this point, there's not really any real police work going on. Like there would have been multiple things that needed to happen at this point for them to be able to go see this guy, because this is an active case. None of that happens. They just go directly to the guy's house, but not before we see Chucky in this guy's house. And I
Chucky's.
can't remember this guy's name. Huh?
I can't remember. I just call him Voodoo Guy.
Yeah, Voodoo Guy. So Chucky is in Voodoo Guy's house, and he kind of we get some cool animatronic work here, but we also get kind of the first time that we see a human in a suit in a very, very large set. So there's sometimes you see Chucky where he is an animatronic doll. There's sometimes you see a person in the suit, which this would normally look silly if they didn't do it right. So normally, if you do something like this, it's kind of the same thing they did with Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. You have normal sized people, but in a very large set to where it makes the person look small. And that's what they've done here. In this scene, they've kind of recreated this guy's kitchen to be very oversized so that the doll looks really small, the person in the suit. So this guy is in his kitchen getting something out of his fridge. Chucky walks in through the window and sits down on the counter and is like, "Hey, buddy, I'm back. I'm alive. Thanks for teaching me how to do this." This guy is shocked to shit. Like he doesn't believe his own eyes. I'm not really sure this guy thought that this stuff was real, but now he's seeing it in front of his face and he's like, "Well, I guess it was."
Well, I do think that he thought it was real, but he wasn't expecting Chucky to pop up. Because he thought he was dead. And also for multiple reasons. Voodoo is kind of like magic, I mean, you can use it for good or for evil. And through this discussion comes out that this guy, even though he's voodoo, he usually only does the voodoo for good stuff. He doesn't use it for evil purpose. This is where the discussion starts between the two, because Chucky wants to know what's going on, how he can get out of this body, whatever, because it explains that he thought that he
that's
could
the whole reason for him going there, was to ask questions and wondering how to get out of his body.
Exactly. So Chucky said, "But I got shot yesterday and it's actually fucking bleeding. How is this shit happening?" And then the voodoo guy tells him, "Yeah, well, the longer you are in that body, the more human you will become." So that also, so and then Chucky's like, his reaction, "What, you mean I have to stay in this fucking body forever, blah, blah, blah." No?
Yeah.
And what kind of like is like, this is another discussion you could bring up. Would Chucky eventually just become fully human again? No? Inside that body and age? Or that's the big question.
Well, we know from future installments of this. We know from future installments of this that that's not what happens. But yeah, I don't think this has ever been done on a doll or an inanimate object before. So this is kind of something that he probably doesn't have answers for, but he knows that that body will become more and more human. But I would assume that it becomes human, but still looks exactly like it does right now, which is
Yeah,
also not good.
probably. Yeah. No, however, then Chucky asks how he can get out of this body. No, the voodoo guy tells him he has to transfer his soul into the first person he revealed himself to. No, what is Andy?
The cool
Then
thing is
the voodoo guy actually,
the cool thing is the only way that he was able to get this guy to tell him that, because he wasn't going to tell him that. He said, "Tell me
yeah,
how to get out of this fucking body." And the guy was like, "No, I taught you this stuff and you're using it for evil so you can rot like that." And that's when Chucky's like,
yeah,
"Oh, that's funny because I've got your
yeah,
voodoo doll right
exactly.
here," which is a voodoo doll of him, right?
Yeah,
And so he breaks its leg and he breaks its arm. And finally, through torturing this guy with his own voodoo doll, the guy tells him that. He's like, "Well, you have to trade your soul with the first person that you told you were what you are."
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Uh, and so once he's got this information, I don't know what this guy thought. If he thought that Chucky was going to let him live or whatever by him telling him that, but that's not the plan. So Chucky's got what he wants. He's like, "Okay, I know what to do. It looks like I'm going to be a 6-year-old again." Because he knows that he has to transfer his body into the body of Andy, right? And
yeah,
so he
yeah,
says, "God, I'm going to be a 6-year-old again. I guess that means I don't need you anymore." And takes his butcher knife and stabs the voodoo doll in the chest. Which, Mike,
yeah.
what the fuck is this knife that Chucky has? This looks like something from. It's got like clown stuff on it, but it's a real knife.
Yeah,
Did you
it
take a
doesn't
look
even
at
look
that
like a
thing?
real knife. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I took a look. It looks like a toy knife.
Whatever.
That's what it looks like.
It looks like a
I
toy
mean, yeah,
knife. It doesn't look like a
because
real knife, but whatever.
it's not the same knife because the knife he had in the car was a butcher knife. No.
Yeah,
But this I don't know. It just looks weird.
it's a weird looking knife, but
Yeah,
whatever. I'm sure you can probably find that knife in some prop collector's thing. They probably make them.
yeah,
It's a weird looking knife. I've never seen anything like it before, but he uses it for the rest of the film. Uh, anyway, so he stabs the voodoo doll in the chest with the knife, effectively killing this guy, but this guy doesn't die immediately. He kind of bleeds out. Chucky leaves there, and about the time that he leaves, the cop and the mom walk in. So
yeah,
they walk in and find him on the floor bleeding. And he tells him everything. He tells them everything that he told Chucky. He said, he's killed me, but basically, I've told him that he has to go into the body of the first person that he let know that he was alive and he was in that body. So they immediately now know that Andy's in a lot of shit. Um, and so now they have to go get Andy, which leads me to the scene in this movie that makes absolutely no sense and is very cruel and unusual, right? We get to see the facility that Andy has been in all this time.
yeah,
This thing looks like a fucking insane asylum from the 30s. The paint on the wall is peeling, everything is dirty as shit, and they have this little 6-year-old locked up in a room with bars on the window. And there's a window to the outside with bars on it, but there's no glass on it. And this is the middle of winter in Chicago. Did you notice that? Dude, what the fuck,
yeah,
man? Like you can't take a 6-year-old and put him in a room with bars on it by himself with weather outside with no protection from the weather when it's like 22 degrees outside. This is like cruel and unusual shit. And apparently this place is full of kids because we see other ones too. And the little girl in particular that they show later looks dirty and looks mistreated and looks like she probably shouldn't be there. This is not a good facility, Mike. These kids
no,
probably don't get
no,
anything to
no,
eat.
no. Yeah. Because this is the scene where where Andy sees Chucky calling
Yeah,
out through the chairs, and he starts flipping out, calling the doctor. Here, Chucky's here. He wants to kill me, and blah blah blah. No, um, and still the doctor's like, "Ah, no, that's not what's happening," and on and on and on. No, and then he's like, "No, Chucky wants to kill me. He wants to kill me." Yeah, I don't entirely remember
yeah,
how Andy gets out, but he somehow gets out of the room, doesn't he? Chucky gets the keys to the cell, and I don't fully remember how, but somehow Andy gets out of the room and he starts running away from Chucky, going into
right.
another room. No? because he realized that no, I think I'm not. Maybe Chucky is the one that opened up the door. I'm not sure. However, Andy gets out of the room and runs now through the hallways into this other room, noticing that Chucky's in there with him and grabs a knife. You have the scene where Chucky is now following Andy. He gets into the room, this other room, whatever. I think it's a patient's room or whatever. Where Andy has the knife to protect himself from Chucky. Then the doctor comes in, takes the knife out of Andy's hands. Like, you don't need. This is where the doctor is trying to sedate Andy. And so Chucky grabs a knife and stabs the doctor in the back. Then the doctor falls on the floor out of pain. Chucky takes an electro thing for electroshock therapy, sticks it on the head, and is like, and starts pushing the button, basically electrocuting him to death. Even though this is the thing where I'm like, I'm not sure if in the 80s electroshock therapy, I don't think it was used in the 80s, or?
No, like, so these contraptions, they do exist, but not in this form. So the machine that they would have used in the 80s would have gone over the head, but you couldn't turn it up to this level to where it would fry somebody. Like that's not a thing. But whatever, it's a movie. It's a movie.
But even electroshock therapy, that was still used in the 80s? What?
They're still doing electroshock therapy. That's still a thing.
That doesn't do anything. Huh?
It does. It does. So you can actually look it up. They use it on people who, I can't remember the exact type of psychosis, but there's a psychosis where if you do deliver electric shocks during a heightened form of psychosis, it can rewire the brain quickly enough or reset it to where it stops that. I can't remember the type of psychosis it is, but it's rarely used, but they do still use it. So
yeah, but as far as I know, because for mental illness, and even if people are crazy people, electroshock therapy does nothing.
Let's put it this way: it wouldn't be in a child psychology facility anyway. Like, this place is full of children; it's not full of adults. They would not be using electroshock therapy on kids. I mean, I'll go up and look this stuff up afterwards just to see if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Even so, if it was there, Mike, you wouldn't be able to turn it up all the way to where it would fry somebody. So this whole scene is absolute bullshit, but we are talking about a movie where there is a living doll killing people. So, I mean, whatever. So he straps the thing to the doctor's head, turns it all the way up and fries the doctor, right in front of the kid. This kid's going to have so much fucking trauma. He's now witnessed a few deaths. The other thing that got me about this though, Mike, too, and I need to maybe go back and look this up. There's a scene right after he fries the doctor, or right before, where the kid has picked up a scalpel off the floor that's been knocked down and is kind of backing up, scared, running into things. Yeah, I know, but Mike, it's a real scalpel, and this kid is 6 years old in a scene where he's almost falling over a few times. And I'm like, that would have never made it past child safety laws now. To film that scene. That's a real scalpel. It's not a plastic scalpel. Anyway, fries the doctor, and then I think Chucky escapes, and I think the kid does too, doesn't he?
Yeah, the kid does too. He escapes too, because the next thing is when you see the cops there, and the police are there, and then the cop and the mother come now running through the hallways,
right?
And then the cop's partner is like, the doctor died. We don't know where the kid is, and now they're assuming the kid killed him too. And then the other cop is like, okay, where's his doll? And it's like, why his doll? Just, because they know that Chucky's after him. But the other cop is like, what? However, then the cop turns around to the mother and says, where would he go now? And the mother said, probably home. Because she says, I told him if he's in trouble, doesn't know where to go, just go home. No?
Yeah.
Then the scene comes back to Andy. No? He's at home now, barricading the doors so Chucky can't get in. And then he locks himself in his room and then hides in the closet. No? And this is where he's looking through everything. He finds a bat. No? And then Chucky manages to get into the apartment. I'm not entirely sure
I thought
how.
that this is
No,
fucking weird too. I have no idea how he got into the
I mean,
apartment.
but I guess he probably could have crawled up somewhere through the window. I don't know. However, Chucky
Whatever.
manages to get into the apartment, no? And then a kind of a cat mouse thing happens between Andy and Chucky, no? Chucky, they're fighting a little bit or whatever, and then Chucky actually steals the baseball bat from Andy.
Mhm.
After you have this short scene where you have this cat and mouse thing going on, Chucky pops up from behind Andy, says something, and slaps him over the head with it.
Yeah,
I think it's like Barrett, something you do in baseball games, no?
yeah.
Where
I
he
can't
pops up
remember
and
what he
says,
says, but it's something
he says
cheesy because
something you do
Chucky's
think
cheesy as
usually,
fuck from this point on.
yeah, cheesy, and he hits him over the head, and then Andy is unconscious on the floor. Now Chucky puts his hand on his forehead and starts doing the voodoo mumbo jumbo stuff.
Right.
Yeah, basically here at this point the same scene going on where you have the clouds coming up, electricity and all of that.
Yeah.
At this point, the cop and the mom are running up the stairs because they obviously see, okay, what's happening, no? That somehow Chucky is now trying to transfer himself into the boy's body. They haul ass up the stairs, manage to kick in the door, no? And I'm not sure if they kick Chucky away, but I think the mom just takes Chucky and throws him away, no?
She does. She just picks him up and throws him across the room.
Yeah.
Because this doll is so dangerous, right? That's the thing that's bothered me about this movie the entire time is that in real life, it's hard to say. If it's a horror movie, you can't really take things as real life. But even Chrissy said it while she was watching it. She's like, "This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This stupid little doll is not that dangerous. Like you could subdue this thing so easily, right? But this doll manages to do all sorts of crazy shit that disables adults so quickly. I think
I mean, I have to say this is one thing. Even though a lot of people complain about it, this point alone is definitely something the remake did better. No?
uh I saw the remake and I remember thinking it wasn't a bad film.
No, me neither. I mean, I saw the remake of Child's Play, and you never really see physically Chucky overpowering other people. They left that out entirely. That
Yeah,
from what I remember. No?
he doesn't
Overall
attack
and
anybody
generally,
physically. Yeah.
what?
Yeah, he doesn't attack anybody physically in the remake.
Yeah,
Everything in
yeah.
the remake is all like internet stuff and him being able to
Yeah.
control machines and shit.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the thing one thing that bothered me with the remake definitely is the rogue AI thing. It's like, uh, I mean, when you come to horror and you have like supernatural magical shit going on, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. It doesn't have to make sense. It's magical bullshit. Yeah.
Right.
But
Right.
when it comes to technology stuff happening in the present day and you see something that's clearly not possible, I don't know, that bugs me a little bit, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, it's like
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people, you know, that complain about this and this and this being unrealistic, specifically if it's a fictional setting. No, it depends. But Chucky and all of this shit going on is some supernatural voodoo mumbo jumbo going on. So I mean, everything up until the strength, the puppet would not be this strong. No, so that's kind of like,
No.
people are really struggling to fight with this puppet, even though
That's,
you could easily rip its fucking arms off. No, so
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and then also it kind of goes back to the car scene where he's got the cables around the guy's neck pulling and choking him, right? This thing cannot have that kind of strength. That's impossible because strength also comes from body weight, right? And what you're able to do with that. This thing weighs 15
Yeah.
pounds. You could fucking football kick this thing across the room or out a window or whatever you want to do. It's not going to be able to do the level of damage that it does in this scene. And that's why this part, at least, this whole inside fighting in the apartment scene is just ridiculous for me. Everything that happens here is absolutely insane. Like he
No.
stabs the cop in the leg, uh, and the cop goes down like a big baby and is basically on his butt the rest of the time that this fight is going on because he's been stabbed in the leg. Okay, there's that. The second thing is he overpowers the kid. He overpowers the mom again. This doll has an insane amount of strength, right? And gets kicked around quite a bit, like quite a bit. This
Yeah,
particular
this
scene.
this scene goes on for quite because they're fighting around a little bit, until the mother locks up Chucky in this in the chimney or the fireplace or whatever. And Chucky is
Yeah,
screaming,
in the
trying to get
fireplace. Yeah,
out. Hold the pistol. Yeah, and then the mom is like, "Come on, get the matches, Andy, no." And
yeah,
okay, the Andy eventually knows what the mom wants to do, no. And he
yeah.
gets the matches, and then Chucky else says, "Oh, hey, Andy, we were supposed to be friends until the end." And then Andy is like, "Yeah, well, this is the end." Lights the match and throws it in the
I love it.
fireplace,
He's like,
no.
"This is the end, friend." And he throws back. Chucky catches on fire. We get this whole we we get this whole scene of him burning, right? Like screaming in agony, burning, and I don't know. The voice acting for this part is just kind of ridiculous. It's like, uh, make sounds and noises like you're burning to
Yeah. However, then Chucky is only a piece of coal left, no, or he's pretty much burnt. They think he's dead. They go back to the they go back to the doctor. I mean, to the cop. And the mom tells Andy, "Go get the first aid kit," and blah blah blah. Andy runs up to the first aid, get the first aid kit. And he sees Chucky's not laying where he was. He's like, Mom." No, he calls for his
Right.
mother.
Chucky's
The mother comes
moving
up.
around
Then
again.
Chucky pops up again. Yeah, he's moving around again. So okay, then they run back into the bedroom. No, they lock the door. No, and Chucky is
Yeah,
trying to open up the door, and they push from the other side. No,
yeah.
and this is like also we're getting to the point. I mean, you have a doll trying to. Uh, you would. I mean, God damn it! I could probably hold the door shut with one finger. Uh,
That bothered the shit out of me, Mike. Because the doll is on the other side of the door, trying to push. She's got all of her weight up against the door to keep this doll from getting out. At the same time, Chucky is stabbing through the door with his knife. So the knife is coming through the door on the other side, right next to the mom's head. What is this mom doing? She keeps her head up to the door. At this point, if the knife was coming through the door, I would have moved away and put my feet up against it. That way, at least I didn't get stabbed in the head. But he stabs the knife through the door like 9 more times with her head pressed up against the door. Like, the sense of self-preservation of this woman is not very good. I like backed up and put my foot up against the door. At least I wouldn't get stabbed. But miraculously, she doesn't get stabbed through the head when she probably should have.
yeah.
Uh,
However,
yeah,
well, this scene is a little bit nonsensical because you have like this little puppet. However, whatever. Eventually, I think Chucky gets into the room and then they run into the hallway, but the mother, I think, picks up a gun from the cop, I guess. No?
yeah,
Oh no, the cop gave her a gun
yeah.
sometime
He
shortly
hands her
before
the
that.
gun. Yeah,
No? Well, leads you up to the question, yeah, you have a gun. I mean, you might it's like this little puppet has a knife and you have a gun. However,
yeah,
in the scene while Chucky's in the hallway, she shoots off literally every single fucking body part of him.
yeah.
No?
This is very
Uh
Terminator-esque, by the way.
what? Terminator death, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. However, until the last shot, she removes his head or whatever,
yeah,
and then the body seems to be lifeless. No? And she runs in to the cop, no? And
uh,
at this point, I think the partner of the cop comes in, and he's like, "Oh, what the fuck is going on in here?" No,
right.
and they're like, "Yeah, the puppet did it. The doll did it. He's alive." And the cop is like, and the partner's like, yeah, right, okay, whatever."
Yeah,
No,
the
and
cop
just like
is
go
not
into the
buying any
hallway.
of this shit.
Yeah, go into the hallway and check it. No, the cop is in the hallway. He sees the burnt doll around, picks up the head, and is like, "Yeah." He sets he comes back into the room, puts Chucky's head onto the cupboard. Now and he's like, "Come on, you want to tell me this thing is alive or whatever?" Then Chucky's body, nah, grabs the cop from behind, and the cop just can't get this doll off his body, nah. And then Chucky's like, "Kill him! Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!"
The head is screaming at the body. The head is screaming at the body for it to kill the cop. But what gets
Kill him!
me
Yeah.
is Chucky doesn't the body of Chucky doesn't crawl through the door to grab the cop from behind the neck. Like he crawls through the air vent, which I'm curious how he gets into an air vent and then into the air vent that's right above the cop's head. Like he would have had to have known. Plus, the doll can't see at this point, right? But the doll's body
Yeah.
gets through an air vent, crawls through it, and comes out at the air vent that's right next to the door, reaches through the air vent and grabs the cop around the neck. Fucking ridiculous, but whatever.
Yeah. However, eventually the cop managed to get the puppet off and throws her on the other side of the room. I think it's the cop, the other cop, not the cop that's with the mom all the time.
Yeah.
She says, "Shoot him in the heart." No, and then he shoots Chucky in the heart. No, and then that basically kills Chucky. No, so
Right.
then they're all talking for a short second, and the other cop is like, "Well, do you believe me now?" No, and then the other
Yeah.
the partner is like, "Yeah, but who the fuck is going to believe me?" No.
Yeah, all right, all right. Which is a good question. Nobody's going to believe anybody's story here because this is absolutely absurd.
And you hear like an ambulance and shit coming, and then they're all looking at themselves like, okay, we have to make up some story.
Yeah. And then
Yeah, however,
this
then
is the point at the end
this kind
where
of bugs me.
the head of
This is
Chucky,
the end.
the head of Chucky is on the ground. Yeah. The head of
They
Chucky
just
is
get
on the
up.
ground and it's all burnt and melted and shit. And
Yeah.
they look over at it and it's this is a cool scene. Like I like the animatronics here because it's almost gore. It's all plastic and shit that's burnt
Yeah.
around his face, but you get kind of like human bones showing through the face, and you get like a human teeth and everything, and the eyes are moving still, and it's like, "Hi, I'm Chucky. Want to play?" And it kind of goes from a high pitched voice to a low pitched voice, like the batteries are dying. And I think this effect is really
Yeah.
cool. Like for a
Yeah. It is.
ridiculous scene that we just got, this ending scene's pretty good.
Yeah. However, yeah, but this is the ending, because endings like this kind of bug me, because basically I'll just skip up, leave the room, close the door, and that's the end.
That's the end. Yeah,
And
we didn't get any more.
Yeah, that I don't know. Endings like that, it depends on what just happened, no? But I don't know. Somehow I think the ending for everything that just happened is kind of weird, because I
It's
would like to
very
know. I
anticlimactic.
mean, of course,
yeah.
I think you can figure out what happened. Yeah. Of course, you have like, I don't know, how much child play movies were there? 5 or 6 before the remake? I don't know. No.
No, it keeps going, dude. I think it goes up to 6, and then we get a TV series.
Yeah, there's a TV series. I'm not sure. I know there was a TV. I haven't seen the TV series yet. I know that they made one. However, when it comes to Chucky or Child's Play, I remember the first 3 being good, no? But everything after the 4th one, I think what the 4th one was, The Bride of Chucky, I think, no? And it was like
Yeah.
that one, I don't know. That everything after, even though the 3rd one was more funny than everything else, no?
It's they're good for a laugh. Child's Play 2 is an impossibility because at the end of this movie, as we just described, this doll is completely destroyed. Like there is nothing left of this doll, and Child's Play 2 picks up as if the doll was not destroyed, which makes no sense. Like
Yeah,
2
but
destroys
doesn't
continuity
it say?
completely.
Yeah, I thought, isn't it that the remainings of Chucky are melted into a new doll, something like that?
I can't remember exactly. I think somebody goes back and gets the pieces of the doll and takes them back to the factory to remake it, is what happens. I can't remember specifically, but I mean, it was very far-fetched. Like they really had to go out on a limb with it. Surprisingly, though, the second movie is actually pretty good. The second movie is pretty good. But everything after part 2 is just absolute utter nonsense. And it still takes itself seriously up until The Bride of Chucky. And then The Bride of Chucky, that entire film is just a comedy. It's
Yeah.
just a comedy. And I like that movie. I thought it was good because it's self-aware enough to realize that it's ridiculous and just makes fun of itself. So if you watched this film and then part 2 and then went directly to The Bride of Chucky, you're going to have a good time because The Bride of Chucky was a good movie. I liked it. It was
Yeah.
funny. But the series again picks up and tries to take itself way too seriously. There
Have
was
you
some,
seen it?
yeah, I've seen it. there's some funny stuff in the series, but for the most part, it's ridiculous because it takes itself really seriously. Um, and of course, the guy who plays Chucky, at least the voice, is always the voice of Chucky. He's in every one of the movies. And honestly, some of the jokes that he makes and how he uses his voice to do it kind of make it good. If they'd used anybody else, it wouldn't have
Yeah.
been as good. But the whole thing is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
hmm. Yeah, okay. Yeah, however, I don't know. It's just it's I like the movie. I mean, how should I say it? I don't know when it was the last time I saw Child's Play, but it's a good movie. There are a few things, just like we said, that are ridiculous because you're never gonna see a puppet from that size overpowering full adults, maybe children, maybe, but I think children are strong enough to to go up against this thing. But either than that, and the car scene is ridiculous. But
Yeah,
overall, I liked it. I thought it was a good movie. Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's effective in doing what it does. And this is also one of those you kind of have to look at it in a historical context. We aren't
Yeah.
talking about a doll that is possessed that attacks people, which is a ridiculous concept to begin with. But with that concept and what was going on in the 80s, they made this film work. And because of that, it was a success. So, I mean, props to
Yeah.
them for an original idea that kind of played off of what was going on in society at the time. Did it
Yeah.
need to go past part one? Probably not. But it did, and it made a shitload more money. Uh, the series and the entire concept and the idea of Chucky has jumped the shark already, but at least they didn't take Chucky to space.
Like they did with Leprechaun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the horror movie joke, right? So if a series has run its course and it's about as far as it can go into ridiculousness, the last and final step is to take it to space, just like they did with Jason, just like they did with Leprechaun, Like we haven't seen
Yeah.
Chucky in space yet. I'm sure that's the next movie we're gonna get.
Mhm.
And I'll watch it. I'll watch it because I'm a sucker.
Yeah.
So I want to see how this plays out. Which reminds me, Jason X is one of the most ridiculous fucking films ever made in horror history, and I can't wait for us to do that one.
Yeah. Well, wait, I think we have it on the list. This year. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's coming up. We'll get around to it, but um, yeah, I'm with you. I liked the movie. I thought it was good. It's a bit ridiculous, but I mean, it does its job.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we didn't rip this one apart as bad as we did some of the other films, so it must not have been too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it for this episode, man. You got anything else you want to say about this movie?
No. So far, I've said pretty much everything. Yeah.
So our next episode is a guest episode. So if you're at the end of this one and you were waiting for the time that we have our next heavy metal guest, stick around for the next one because it's going to be good. You guys
Yeah.
should be pretty happy about it. Yeah. And until that episode, I guess we'll see you then. I'm
Yep.
Matt.
I'm Mike.
We'll see you guys later.
See you. Bye.
The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.